What do you see at the moment as is stopping true widespread digital transformation in the sector, and what sort of changes do you think we need to start seeing come through?
Regarding the AEC sector, it operates at low profit margin, and this forces companies mainly to focus on short-term gains rather than investing in digital transformation and putting investments in digital transformation. The second fact is what happened recently. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the AEC sector was considered and is still considered among the least digitized sectors. So companies rushed to pick up solutions in order to enable remote working and provide sustainable business model. And with that, they also received high rate adoption for these digital solutions. So companies had the misunderstanding that they achieved digital transformation this way, and there's nothing else that needs to be done. But ultimately, this is not a sustainable model. Going now back to normal and everything, companies started to rethink about this approach and see what can be done. Now, back to digital transformation framework success, we see that the success lies by setting a certain ambition, which either starts with business optimization and leads to business transformation at a later stage. And this success lies in certain characteristics for digital transformation. Among these characteristics, we list down the operational excellence, enhancing customer experience, digital strategy, and digital products and services, along with innovation culture. If we take some of these characteristics, I just try to provide two quick examples that are happening currently in the AEC sector, and especially in the region. The first one, that companies rush to digitize processes without the lack of having visibility how this can overlap the value chain, meaning that they digitize the process as it is currently without thinking how it can add value or provide better quality to the customer at a later stage, which ends up like digitizing the process as is just to serve the purpose that they need to have without overlooking the overall value chain. And the second example is that people thought about digital transformation is about generating new revenue streams. And for that, companies rushed to enable business transformation, leaving the business optimization, which is the core, without any solutions for it. So companies wasted time, wasted effort, and cost trying to enable this stream without undergoing like the maturity ladder that they need to go. And this had a huge impact on the core of the AEC value chain.
So Nour, turning to you, how do you see the fragmented nature of the AEC industry? Because obviously there are many different companies, many different disciplines within the industry. So how do you see that fragmented nature holding back digital transformation? And I guess a supplementary question to that is what can be done to overcome this?
The fragmentation of our industry is really caused by a myriad of issues, one of which really it's the procurement practices. Projects are piecemealed. It's a services-based industry, highly transactional. Because of that, okay, and it goes to what my colleague has mentioned, is everybody within the value chain kind of think within their scope of services when it comes to digitalization without really looking at what's the benefit holistically for the value chain. Because the way projects are procured, it does not allow that thought process, if you will, wherein we need to think holistically, on how we're going to deliver project digitally and share the risk and share the reward. That model, historically did not exist. So right now, there are companies start looking into that, customers start looking into that. Certainly in Saudi, UK started that a long time ago with Project 13. So when it comes down to digital transformation, right now, companies through the value chain, from the consultants to contractors and the government, stakeholders and other stakeholders, private industry, the private developers as well, you look at it from their perspective. What is it that's going to benefit to them? And that kind of forces that silo thought process. And because of that, the value that you get from digital within a company is really comes down to how much you could control. Anything outside of that you can't control, you can't do anything about it. But the thing is, if you look at the delivery of a project, in the entire supply chain within the industry, they share information. Certain parties, develop the information, other parties receive the information, but at the end of the day, if there's no methodical, standard way of delivering the information and in a right structured way, it's going to create this, continue to create that fragmentation, which lead to the technology piece. If you look at the technologies that are out there, there are many, many, many point solutions. And why is that? Because technologists look at, or technology providers look at, how are we fragmented in the industry, how our processes are fragmented, and they develop solutions to really cater to this fragmentation.
Shawki, looking at the fragmentation, looking at the people who, how do you bring people together? So what sort of barriers are you seeing around change management? And I guess I'm thinking there in terms of convincing internal stakeholders as well that this is the right path.
First, it's important to add to the fact that, yes, the AEC industry is it's quite fragmented, but it's also quite underdeveloped in terms of technology adoption and innovation as compared to the other industries out there. So there are multiple different barriers that we can see, but the main ones that we need to focus on are external and internal barriers. The internal one is the one that you're asking me about, Rob, but the other one that I wanted to mention as well is the external barrier, which is around the ecosystem and the value chain, right? So Engineer Tabit from the SEA mentioned that, and that's something that's really crucial, that we need to make sure that we're involving that ecosystem in the developments that we're building. So what we did at Nesma and Partners is build a platform in which we can collaborate more with our vendors and our subcontractors in order to be able to ensure that collaboration is there, and we avoid doing digitizations of silos within and not cooperating with that value chain and our ecosystem. In terms of the internal challenges that we're facing, it's important to note that really these challenges are existing because of the fear of change, which is compounded by the legacy organizational structures that we see in the different companies in the AEC industry, which really stem from the vertical silos and that fragmentation that's been existing for a really long time in the construction industry. What we've done to be able to really tackle that is we've brought in that agile methodology, again, not in terms of the entire value chain, but related to software implementation and business process re-engineering. And we've seen that that's led to a lot of collaboration and really a lot of buy-in from the different stakeholders from within. And really recommend doing the same strategy for the rest of the companies that are also looking to implement digital transformation from within.
In terms of the supply chain, I mean, this is an expensive process for people, I think, in terms of, I think it was Nour who said that, the industry operates on thin margins. So is the supply chain willing to do what needs to be done to enable digital transformation?
The digital transformation in our built environment or in the AEC means for me a constructive collaboration between different parties, between different stakeholders in a way that can be evolving to achieve the requirement of making proper collaboration between all the parties and stakeholders connected with each other. To achieve this, I believe this digital transformation needs us to work together back to back, because if we look to the factors or the main components of the digital transformation, we will refer back to the 3 Ps that are related to the people, the processes, and the platforms in addition to the standard. which I will come to it at the end. If we look to the people, for example, in the people factor or in the people pillar, we need to think about proper training and education, proper awareness for the teams in different stakeholders' sides. We need to think about the resistance to change, the fear to change that you just mentioned is very important from all the stakeholders and the parties involved in the process. And absolutely, we need to train our team and make the proper awareness for them about the benefits that they will achieve from doing by themselves the transformation. If we look to the processes, I believe the colleagues here mentioned a lot about the processes that had been digitalized. But again, all the stakeholders to look to the process that are related to them in a way that they should serve the investment that they are doing and serve the business model that they are doing. And when we go back to the third pillar, which is related to the platforms, the softwares, the CDE, and the technique part, again, the stakeholders needs to think about all these items and decide which one is more supporting them, more achieving the empowerment for the people and the processes that we mentioned. Additional, above all the 3 Ps, we have the standards. We need to think about the policymakers. Are the policymakers absolutely are the clients or the employers in the cycle of any project? Should be thinking about how they need the digitalization to be implemented in their business, and they should write down this in order to influence or to make it as a mandate, let's say, above all the involved parties in their projects who are going to build the components of their projects in a way that it is serving the business model of them. So the stakeholders are all requested to pay their attention and to do their homework, let's say, and back to back from one to the other, they should influence each other to do the proper transformation for the AEC industry. Right now, we have the ISO 19650, we have the Flex 260. All these standards that are available now can give us the indication how to build our policies from a point of view of each entity to move forward with building the processes and selecting the platforms and absolutely to empower the resources or the human, the people part of the cycle.
Okay, so what I'd like to do now is I want to move through the panel, just getting some examples of digital transformations that you've undertaken, that you've gone, that have shifted the dial. And as you're answering, also think, we don't have an awful lot of time, so that you can't go into massive detail, but just a little bit of detail about why you did it, what you were trying to achieve, what benefits this is going to bring, and how you overcame some of the barriers that were in the way on that journey. If I start with Najib, you have put in place some digital transformation projects that are changing the way you interact with your value chain, things like going paperless, logistics planning. So just a little bit of information there.
What we did at ALEC is we developed a digital office, first of all, in order to focus on short and term and long-term goals. With the long-term goals, we have successfully managed to change the mindset from project to product development. And this is all done in-house by the IT team at ALEC, along with the product owners from the business. With that, we have successfully launched 2 digital products at ALEC. Currently, they are used at the project sites. The first product is related to logistics management, where it handles the full-time deliveries and scheduling site assets in a way that all subcontractors are looped in the process. And at the same time, it handles the collaboration between the 2 value chain players, which are the subcontractor and the logistics team on the ground. This product gained us like 25% efficiency and of all asset utilization on project sites. The second product is with the drive that we have seen during the pandemic to digitize lots of processes. We saw that there's a huge requirement coming from the business to digitize all paper-based forms. And unlike to pick like a quick solution by just enabling electronic signatures. What we have managed to do there is develop a low-code platform to digitize paper-based forms and automate business processes in a way that all subcontractor needs to submit all kind of permits online. It loops the full digital cycle of approvals, and here it gained us a huge efficiency gain, around 60%. We're not talking here about number of papers saved or number of hours, but we're talking about how much we had efficiency in terms of achieving starting the construction activities earlier rather than having the normal delay that we used to have chasing manual processes and chasing signatures from different approvals. Now with this product mindset, it gave us huge efficiency, huge scale, and currently the two products are launched on 3 big projects at ALEC. We have a huge efficiency gain, and we have a mindset and a product strategy to go with these 2 products to the market in order to monetize it in the market and try to also sell it to other competitors and the supply chain in the AEC industry.
And then Shawki, now Nesma, you've set up the digital transformation department, so a little bit about why, what were you hoping to achieve from that, how is it helping? And then also, again, one of the projects you've worked on, I know, is around digitalized processes for QR tagging so that you can track. So again, just brief details, why, benefits it's bringing to the company.
Our mission is to build safer, faster, and better. So to do that, we wanted to create, more collaboration and be more efficient in the organization. So the strategic choice was to really align people, processes, and technology. Okay, it was very simple, in a way, and really we needed to operationalize it. Okay, so we decided to set up a digital or business transformation team comprised of business analysts that are really just engineers from within the company that understand the project life cycle, that understand how things are done within the company. And we also mixed it with the application developers, okay? So we built that team that really works in that agile methodology that I mentioned previously. And the sole goal is to be able to really find better solutions for the core processes that we have in the company. So initially we focused on procurement. So we developed, a vendor registration portal to be able to collaborate with all of our vendors and our subcontractors. We even developed a subcontract management portal that's live on all of our projects. And we also developed an asset management portal, and that's the QR tagging process that we just mentioned. So really, we saw that we had an inefficiency in our plant machinery and vehicles movement in the company. And so we decided through a prototype working within the company with the plant machinery and vehicles department, as well as our business analyst. We thought that the best way to be able to tackle that was to create a single source of identification for all these assets, and to make that the point of contact for any type of activity regarding any type of asset in the company. And so what this showed us was that working and collaborating from people within the company who understand the company better than anyone else, and combining that with application developers that are maybe not even in the construction industry. And we're also doing that on a low-code business process management engine that sits on top of our ERP. So that gives us that flexibility and that ability to really develop and enhance as we go, and honestly to be able to really maintain those platforms that we're developing in-house. So again, it gives us the ability to really cover the entire value chain. It gives us the ability to focus on the core capabilities from within, and constantly be able to really redevelop it, re-enhance it, and again, most importantly, give us that flexibility and allow us to involve and collaborate with everybody and all the stakeholders from within the company.
Okay, thank you. And Nour?
There's a saying, it takes 3 attempts to get it right when you want to start something new. And we embarked on digital transformation back in 2015. It was fairly new, wasn't done before. I could say today we have a full-fledged strategy with a full detailed program that consists of 120 tangible initiatives with tangible outcomes. And we're still working on implementing each and every one of these initiatives. It's a long journey. It's a painful journey to do digital transformation. To start with, we first have to identify where are we within the value chain? We're consultants, we're not contractors. We're not private developers, we're not asset owners, we're consultants. So focusing on that, then we say, okay, there are multiple verticals within the AEC industry: aviation, roads and highways, rail and transit, and so on and so forth. So we have to look at those verticals and decide which verticals we want to play in. And that goes back to answer that question, first we need to look at, as a company, what's our strategic goals and objectives? Where do you want to play? Where our markets are? What our service offerings in these markets? So what we've done is we've developed a 5-step process to develop this strategy. That was the first step, is really understand the strategic goals and objectives of the company as a whole. Then you develop, the second step, develop on goals and objectives of your digital transformation to align with those objectives to hit them, so you don't miss the mark. And this is important because when it comes to funding, that's where the rubber meets the road and you could justify why you want to invest. The third step is, what are the pillars of success? How are you going to measure, basically, that you achieved what you said you're going to achieve? And we've identified about 9 pillars of success. I can't go all over them, but I'll tell you the first and foremost is executive leadership sponsorship. You need to have sponsorship from the top. Then the second one is change management to embrace digital. And I could go on and on with the rest of the pillars of success, but a couple of them has to do with making sure that you want to standardize. You have to develop standards. If you don't have them, you have to develop them. And then look at the technologies that would enable them. And last but not least, you have to develop a sustainable training program. And what I mean by sustainable is our industry is plagued with high turnover. Because it's the same resources moving from one company to another. So you need to make sure that you have a sustainable training program for new hires and for existing base of employees. Last but not least, which is very, very, very difficult to achieve, but it is achievable with endurance and perseverance and passionate leadership, is adoption at scale. The bigger the organization, the harder it is to adopt digital. Yes, you may succeed, in doing digital transformation at the project level, and you do proof of concepts. But when it comes to adoption at scale, especially if your organization is spread out geographically, it's very, very hard to do that. So you need to have a strategy around that. Then the fourth step is you really need to develop a plan to execution strategy. And what I mean by that, a strategy without an execution plan or a tactical plan is nothing less and nothing more than a paper exercise. A tactical plan without a strategy is just noise. It's not going to get you anywhere. So you have to develop a plan to execution strategy, knowing what the end state is. What is it that you want to get, right? Which goes back to really achieving the digital transformation objectives and goals to align with the company goals and objectives. Last but not least, which is the last step, is you have to develop a protocol, a framework, wherein when you start implementing digital at each of these individual initiatives that you're going to create, you have to have a framework where you vet at the onset of the implementation of each initiative within the program that you're going to get to the end state. And we've developed a 5-phase approach. First, we ask our question, do we have a standard? Yes and no. We don't, we create it. 2, what are the technologies that are out there that can enable that standard? We have to do an assessment. And then through the assessment, you're going to find gaps in these technologies. Then you got to ask yourself, well, how are you going to bridge those gaps? By way of a process, technology, what are you going to do? Then you put a plan together. Third step, you go proof of concept to ascertain that what you assist is actually going to deliver on what you thought the technology is going to deliver. And then you develop it through your training materials to roll out the training to the production environment. The last phase is adoption at scale. And that is where really it's very hard to achieve. Because you're gonna face resistance, you're gonna face a lot of difficulties in changing the culture of people who want to change. Because digital is not about technology, digital about people. Okay, but that goes back to the overall strategy. You need to have a change management strategy as well. I think if we have embarked on this journey and we have developed our strategy with our 9 pillars of success. That we've identified, and right now we are on our way to implement this. But I could tell you, it is very, very painful.
Okay, so Wajdi, we'll ask you the same, and then we'll move to audience questions.
One of the major changes happens in the market in the last few years was the BIM implementation and the digital transformation strategy that I participated with building it in Dubai RTA. Dubai RTA since 2015, 2014 started the process of digital construction, where I led the process of establishing and implementing a full life cycle digitalization to reach with RTA to be a data-driven asset owner. It was a 6 years strategic roadmap. Started with setting all the requirements, the manuals and the policies, going through understanding the market, understanding the stakeholders' requirements, reaching to implementing BIM in one of the biggest projects in that period, the Route 2020 Metro Red Line project, which was above 11 billion dirhams in budget and was a very fast-tracked project. And we achieved a very successful BIM implementation, and we got the certificates from BSI to be the first asset owner in the world, getting the compliance to the ISO 19650 and the PAS 1192 series. Ended up with rolling out the BIM implementation in all of RTA projects. The second example that I would like to share also is related to my current job with Miral in Abu Dhabi. Right now, we already built our digital transformation strategy, where BIM is implemented in all of our projects, regardless in which stage they are. And we are checking the initiatives such as utilization of digital twin, metaverse, the connection with IoT and IOL, the Internet of Things and Internet of Life, in order to enhance the customer satisfaction and also to support our decision makers and empower their decisions with real information about the performance of our assets in any single moment of their lives.
First of all, thank you very much for your time, panelists. It's very interesting hearing the construction issues that we have and digital transformation. Measuring the impact of rework and construction cost performance. Forgive me if I can't quote the source of this. However, 7% of all construction costs are on reworks. You're mentioning internal issues in adopting digital transformation. We have a strategy to work with businesses through a build, operate, transfer process. So we help enable businesses, and we have worked with some of your colleagues in the past. What can we do better to educate and also to enable businesses such as yourselves to overcome these rework costs? So 7% is a huge amount. We're talking billions of dollars in this region. What can we do to help your business overcome these internal challenges?
Actually, as I mentioned, it's an evolving process where everybody should take care of the other and make a back-to-back support for the other. And to be very honest, from my experience, there is an investment part of this process each and every entity should think about enhancing its business model by investing at the beginning. And maybe maybe the figures that I will mention is not a secret, already published long time back. The achievement from the digitalization of the process was 18% as a return of investment in yearly basis. But at the beginning, you should consider some money in order to invest in the processes that you need to rescale them to meet the digitalization, and the platforms and softwares that you need to purchase, and the training and the awareness sessions and the education for your team. And also in all organizations right now, if you look to how organizations are leading the digital transformation, they have a core team who is who is championing the process, let's say, in order to enhance and educate the other available team and help them to move from traditional to digital. Because right now what we are seeing, there is an engagement between the physical life and the virtual life in this digital transformation of the AEC industry. To achieve this, absolutely you need experts that you will pay for them. But from the other hand, after some years, let's say 2 to 3 years, you will reach to a point that all your team who was using the traditional way of doing stuff is doing it in a digital way, and they are believing on what they are doing, and they are supporting the process in an evolving dynamic process which never been stopped. And all the time you will face a problem. And you know, guys, this is a contemporary field where every day we are learning from each other. Every day we are exploring new ideas in order to support the process. The machine learning, the deep learning, the artificial intelligence, all these can be supporting the digitalization of our industry. For example, one of the fields that everybody of us know, that the agility project management approach is more towards the IT projects, let's say. But believe me, and from my experience, the agility can be applied with the support of the digital transformation tools in the construction industry. And again, we will reach to saving money, enhancing the quality, and reducing the wastage of the materials, and achieving the constructability and maintainability that everybody is looking for. So it is an evolving process that you need to invest at the beginning in order to achieve the return of investment that you are willing to during the process.
Okay, so can we move, because we're getting a little low on time, let me just move to the second question.
I'm Ed Surgeon from Procore. Najib, you spoke about how at ALEC you've created a product mindset and even looking at monetizing those products. And Shawki, you spoke about how you've assembled this team of business analysts and developers and adopting an agile mindset. So these are all very reminiscent of software companies, right? And I think this is just so interesting because historically this has not been what you hear from contractors or for the construction industry. So my question to you is, how do you sort of see that balance between sort of buying software versus building software? And if you could give a message to the software vendors out there, what do you think that we could do to better support you?
So look, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, right? We're not going to try to recreate something that's already there. As we mentioned, both Najib and I said the same thing in a way, which is we're trying to be able to create something that is from within, but that is more relatable to what we're trying to achieve as a company. Again, we're not a software development company, we're a construction company. So the main focus is on construction, but we're trying to facilitate everything around that. What I would say, for companies like Procore to be able to work better with us would be to, be ready to have more developments within the software itself to cater more and more the different contractors out there. And that would really involve being able to have a software that's a little bit less rigid. I'm not saying that's per se for Procore, I'm saying in general for all the softwares out there. That's one of the difficulties that we've been facing, which is the rigidity of the systems that are out there. So the reason why we opt to go for more internal developments, again, for things that maybe are not already there, is because we have that flexibility to be able to customize it to meet our needs, more importantly. So that would be my advice to companies like Procore, which is to be a little bit more flexible in the software itself.
And then I think we're very, very low on time, so maybe
Just very briefly.
very briefly, yes, please.
Yeah. So, I agree with Shawki. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. And once we decided to move with this product development, we did evaluate other softwares. The rigidity that we saw in certain softwares moved us to move with this approach. But at a later stage, as you mentioned, that we're going to monetize the software in the market, but without partnering with software vendors like Procore and other software vendors, we're not able to excel and succeed in the AEC industry. So we have plans to discuss and loop the ecosystem in these products. We have plans also to partner with software vendors in order to find the bottlenecks in these software and try to see how we can position these products ultimately with the software vendors in order to eliminate the bottlenecks in the value chain. Ultimately, we're not trying to eliminate a certain product, but we're trying to optimize it in the best way possible by providing best practices in this regard.